it was one of the most dangerous raids ever ordered by an American general. 300 U.S. soldiers were sent more than 50 miles behind German lines in the final weeks of World War II. General George S. Patton called it a necessary tactical diversion. Many officers weren't convinced. The mission Task Force Baum ended in disaster. Nearly the entire force was killed or captured, and almost immediately, questions began to circulate. Why risk so many men for so little strategic gain? The answer led straight to a prisoner of war camp near Hammelburg, and to a man held inside it, Patton's own son-in-law. Did Patton order the raid for military reasons or personal ones? Historians still argue over it today. This is the story of Task Force Baum, the most controversial decision of Patton's career. By March 1945, Allied armies were driving rapidly into the heart of Germany, and the war's outcome was no longer in doubt. Yet, General George S. Patton authorized one of the most controversial missions of his career, a deep armored raid toward Oflag the 13B, a German prisoner of war camp near Hammelburg. Among the prisoners held there was Lieutenant Colonel John K. Waters, Patton's son-in-law, who had been captured in North Africa and transferred through several camps. Officially, Patton justified the operation as a limited strike intended to disrupt German movements and secure the safety of Allied prisoners during the chaotic collapse of German defenses. However, senior commanders questioned the mission's military value. General Omar Bradley later recalled warning that the raid carried extreme risk and offered little strategic benefits so late in the war. Despite these concerns, Patton pressed forward. He selected Captain Abraham Baum to lead the force and assembled approximately 300 men and 53 vehicles, ordering them to penetrate more than 50 miles behind enemy lines with minimal infantry support and no guarantee of relief. The task force faced intact German units, damaged roads, and uncertain intelligence. What followed was a near-total disaster. Most of the force was killed or captured, and the raid failed to hold the camp. In the aftermath, Task Force Baum became a symbol of the fine line between bold command and dangerous overreach, and a decision that has shadowed Patton's legacy ever since. Task Force Baum broke through the German lines under the cover of darkness, but they were doomed from the start. They had no infantry support, no air cover, and no clear maps of the territory. By the time they reached the Hammelburg camp, they had been spotted by German reconnaissance. Captain Baum successfully breached the camp gates, but the rescue turned into a massacre. As the prisoners tried to board the tanks, German Tiger tanks and Panzerfaust teams surrounded the area. In the chaos, Patton's son-in-law, John Waters, was shot in the leg by a German guard while trying to negotiate a surrender. The mission was a total catastrophe. Of the 303 men who went in, only 35 made it back. The rest were killed or captured. Patton's reaction? He tried to classify the entire mission as top secret to hide his involvement. When General Eisenhower found out, he was livid. He officially reprimanded Patton, calling the raid a wild goose chase. To keep the press quiet, the Army downplayed the mission's intent, labeling it a standard reconnaissance. It wasn't until decades later, through Patton's own diaries, that the truth was confirmed. He had risked over 300 lives for a family member. After the failure of Task Force Baum in March 1945, criticism of General George Patton surfaced quietly but decisively within American military leadership. The raid, which sent a small armored force deep behind German lines to liberate a prisoner of war camp near Hammelburg, resulted in heavy casualties and achieved no lasting military benefit. Senior officers questioned the judgment behind risking experienced men so late in the war for an objective that offered little strategic value. Within the U.S. Army, some commanders viewed the operation as reckless and unnecessary, especially given the deteriorating German position at the time. General Omar Bradley later reflected that the mission appeared poorly conceived and inconsistent with sound operational planning. Although no formal disciplinary action was taken against Patton, the raid reinforced existing concerns among Allied leaders about his impulsiveness and willingness to gamble lives for bold gestures. Publicly, however, criticism was muted. Wartime censorship limited coverage of the failed mission, and Patton's reputation as a victorious battlefield commander, fresh from his role in relieving Bastogne during the Battle of the Bulge, largely shielded him from widespread public backlash. Only after the war did historians and veterans openly debate whether the raid was influenced by the fact that Patton's son-in-law was imprisoned in the targeted camp. In hindsight, Task Force Baum became a case study in how even successful generals could make costly misjudgments, complicating Patton's legacy as both a brilliant and deeply flawed commander. Was Patton a hero trying to save his men, or a man blinded by ego and family loyalty? Task Force Baum remains the darkest stain on his military record, a reminder that even the greatest leaders can make fatal mistakes when the mission becomes personal. If you found this story shocking, hit that subscribe button for more untold history, and check out our other video on Patton's slapping scandal right here. Thanks for watching.